It's not exactly a hobby anymore, I don't think.
Well, hobby
That's
sounds
what a hobby
better.
is.
Yeah, hobby sounds better than obsession. So.
It
Or
kind of
compulsion.
Or crime.
I don't think I deserve a whole hour to myself. I have to give a speech tonight, and I say have to because I hate speechifying. So if at any point during any of this, anyone has anything to say or a question, let me know, because as Mark Finn said on the bus this morning, he will spin and tell tales, and I'm pretty much just this is the fact, and let's move on now. So my hobby. I've been to all of those places. This is where I live. These are the 2 places I want to go. Everywhere else I've been to, in some kind of Howard-related nonsense. For example, this is where his great-grandfather lived for about 5 years. Who needs to go there? I do.
Did he go there then?
My wife and I were vacationing in South Carolina and Georgia. We were driving up to Athens, where there's a fabulous brewery, Terrapin. Beer is my new obsession. And on the way, we got to stop in Covington, I think it is, county seat where Howard's great-grandfather, Henry Howard, lived for a brief time. I got a couple of land documents at the record at the courthouse. I was geeking out. My wife was like, "It's cold, let's go." Anyway, did that.
As wives do.
Yeah.
I said as wives do.
Yes. Mine is long-suffering and very
So,
forgiving.
what are the 2 black ones you want
The
to
2
go to,
black
and what's
ones,
the one in
after Henry
California?
Howard left the red dot in Georgia, they moved to Upson County. That's one of those black dots, and the other one is just the courthouse in Upson County.
What's the red one in California?
The red one in California is Sonora. Sonora? I get them confused sometimes. Sonoma and Sonora. One of them's wine country, one of them's where the Howard was. I think it's Sonoma. A gold rush town. You probably have all heard, well, some of you have heard the story. I'll stand up. The 3 Howard brothers left Arkansas to go to the gold rush in California, and only one of them made it. One of them that came back was Robert E. Howard's grandpa, William Benjamin Howard. But one of the brothers that made it was actually Dr. Howard's namesake, Isaac Mordecai Howard I, who was his uncle. He made it all the way to Sonora. He's on some voter registration documents. I have a couple of land documents, pictures, yada yada.
So this is more than just places Howard has gone to. This
Yes.
is family.
I've expanded because
Oh.
Gary Roehm there did something good. He put out a little booklet called In Search of Samaria. And he pulled out all the pieces from Howard's letters where he talks about going to this place and that place. So I used that at the beginning of my madness. Then more letters came, more documents came, more places showed up. I started getting interested in genealogy. So I've been to every place that Robert E. Howard mentions going in the continental United States. I have not been to the 3 places in Mexico that he went to. Anyway, this is the big obsession. Here is the smaller one. This is just, we're going to get rid of Georgia and California. This is mostly Howard stops. He went to Arkansas. He went to Exeter, Missouri. He spent some time in New Mexico. And lots of time all over Texas. Texas is as big as France. So, traveling in Texas is not like just going to the next town. It's a big state. He was in New Orleans. For a long time, people said Howard never went anywhere. Well, yes, he did. Anyway, there's that. So here, this is Fort McCalloch, nearby. Pretty nearby. What is it, 2 hours? For the longest, when I first came into Howard fandom, it was like 2002. And in 2004, I was going to go to Howard Days for the first time. But my school didn't get out then until middle of June, and Howard Days the second weekend of June, and I just couldn't make it happen. So we came in August, my dad and I. We came in August, and one of the things I wanted to do that same year, the Dark Man had just come out, and the cover of it was Robert E. Howard's picture at Fort McCavick. So one of the things I wanted to do was go there. And I remember asking people on the Inner Circle group, hey, how do I get to that place? And there's a lot of talk about, oh yeah, you can go there, but no one could tell me where to go, because I want to stand in that spot. Who knows everybody knows what picture I'm talking about, right?
Nope.
Nope, I'll show you in a minute. This is Fort McCavick. It's an old Civil War fort. These are restored buildings. If you go there today, it's kind of a mishmash of restored buildings and buildings that are just falling down blocks. Like this. So this is half the fort looks like this, the other half is restored. There's the photograph. So on the back of this photograph, my memory isn't perfect. Robert E. Howard basically says, I like this pic, it reminds me of the Vandals or Goths or something like that. But it says ruins of Fort McCavick. So we know where it is because Robert E. Howard told us. But when you go to the fort, that building doesn't look great, and some of them look like this. So you have to kind of run around until you find the right spot. So with my dad was actually the guy who found this, but I take all the credit because I wrote it up. Before that, I'm running around like, oh, there's a fireplace. Take a picture of me in front of it. I must have 4 pictures of me in front of 4 different fireplaces. And my dad's like, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it. And on his camera, the little LED screens on the back, because I forgot to bring the actual Darkman with me, but we found a picture on eBay that morning, took a picture of it, and we're walking around with this little screen on the back of his camera. But he pretty much found this spot. And all these little red circles are things that line up with Howard's picture. So I don't know if you like this, especially this triangular piece is falling off. I had to argue with Leo Gren, the editor of the Sumerian magazine. I'm like, this is the spot. And he's like, prove it. What do you mean prove it? Look at the triangle there, look at the dot there, look at the thing, and there's this, and there's that, and this little stone right here is another thing that perfectly lines up. But everything above that has gone away now. So you can still go to the fort, it just doesn't look like that anymore, it looks like that. And all these little squiggles are the proof that that's the spot. So if you want to go stand in front of the same place that Howard did, go to Fort McCavick. I heard, someone told me today, and I already forgot who, that they went, was it you? They went and there's a new docent there and they're like, what? Robert E. Howard, who? So sometimes there's someone there who knows how to point you in the right spot, sometimes there's not. This is the officers' quarters. It's right across from the restored main lobby area, if you will. Any questions about this? You see how fast I'm going through this?
One question.
Yes.
Did Leo ever agree?
Yes, that's, once I had proven to him that it was the spot, he asked me to write up my trip because like 3 issues before, he had written an article about Fort McCavick basically saying, no one's going to find the spot, you can't find it anymore, it's been restored or it's demolished. I hadn't seen that before I did this. Good thing, or else I wouldn't have done it. So he was a little upset that I was writing something so recently after he had said. Anyway, there's a bunch of us, like 2 years after that. This guy in the red shirt is Leo, if you don't know. That's the end of the Fort McCavick section of this presentation. This is page 3 of a handwritten letter that Robert E. Howard wrote to his friend, Tevis Clyde Smith, from Marlin, Texas. Anyone know where that is? Jack knows. Marlin is near Waco, yeah?
Yeah.
A little bit of a drive. They used to go there, the Howards, to take the waters. It has spas and healing waters, kind of a mineral wells type situation. They became friendly with the Torbett, Dr. Torbett, who had a sanatorium there. Anyway, the Howards were there, and this is from, this letter was dated June 8, 1923. So Robert E. Howard was a kid then, 18, 6, 17, I don't know. He was a kid. And the family went to Marlin to take the waters. This page here, besides the beautiful drawing of the flapper, it has a date or an address that Thomas Clyde Smith could write to him from. Here it is right here, 508 Coleman Street. That's where they're staying. So if you go to Coleman, you can, or you go to Marlin, my bad. Here is Coleman Street. It's a lovely little residential street. And there is 508 Coleman Street. And that's what it looks like on the outside. It's just a little square. It's a little tiny house before there was such a thing as tiny houses, if you know what I mean. And I think, is Will Oliver in the room? He went there 2 or 3 years ago, and the house has been damaged by a storm or something, so I don't know if they're gonna fix it or not. But the Howard stayed here.
So is that occupied when you were there?
No, it was empty when I was here, but it was maintained. So I'm not sure if someone was actually living there. I knocked on the door, no one answered. Here, oh, this is a postcard from period postcard. And the reason I'm showing it to you is because on the back of it, it also says, right here in the middle, 508 Coleman Street, Marlin, Texas. So what that house was, it was for people who were coming in to take the waters, and they needed someplace to stay. You know, like, they have the same kind of hotels these days. You show up, the family stays for a week or two in a little family zone, and then goes away.
No, that's not, Howard didn't write that post.
No, this is it's a random postcard
How'd
that
you
I
find
found.
How did you find it?
It's called internet archaeology,
Okay.
and I'm just,
Okay,
He has his ways.
yeah, I'm
All right.
really terrible about searching for things.
Okay, keep it up.
Yeah, don't ask that question.
sorry.
Anyway, there's another spot you can go that the Howards were at. While you're in Marlin, oh, yep.
Was his mother's health such at that time that they were going?
In 1923, there's no evidence that she was like sick. There is some evidence that Dr. Howard was, having some issues. He seems to be going to the hospital for this and that back then. So, but taking the waters back then was a general kind of health thing. People would go because it was good for you. And so I don't know that there was a reason they went.
Are the waters still there?
Yes, I don't think. Oh, this building right here, the short white one, right? That's in the foreground. That building is there still. I might have a picture of it. And if you go inside, you can like sample the waters. There's also hotels there, and I think there's 1 or 2 places that you can still do like a bath. But I'm showing this to you because the building in the back is the Torbett Sanitarium where the Howards visited. And you can still go there today also, but you can see that it's not there anymore. Here's that white building. The big hotel is now this little, it's like a Best Western hotel. And the big hospital behind it is no longer there. But Marlin is a lovely little town. This is what this municipal hygeia, where healing waters flow.
So as you're taking these pictures, do you ever get asked, like, what the heck are you doing?
Yes.
Okay.
And you'd be amazed how many people know who Robert E. Howard is now that I've been there. Because the first thing I always say is, have you ever heard, and I say it this way, Conan the Barbarian? Oh yeah! Well, there's this guy, and I tell the story. And they're always very fascinated, if not interested. So when I get finished telling them, they're like, okay, yeah, go that way. And then I don't know what happens after that. So that's the Marlin portion of this presentation. How am I doing on time? No. Oh, wow.
You're doing fine.
We're going to have a lot of spare time at the end. My students hate this about me when I'm giving lectures. I'm nervous right now because you're all adults. My students, they're not even people yet to me. I'm like, they're just, you know. But I roll through things really quickly, and I have to repeat things. I often do my lessons twice. So I'll do it once, and everyone that's like with me starts doing the thing that I asked them to do after that, and then I'm like, okay, you guys come over. Let's do it again. And I go through the whole whatever it is again.
So is this the first time you presented on this subject?
I did this once I don't know, 4 years ago, but I had my dad with me. My dad was with me for almost all of this stuff, and my mom much of the time too. It was one of the things that I found that I could do with my dad, besides just drink beer.
What do
So-
you teach?
I teach English to high schoolers who don't want to be taught
You're
English.
doing God's work. Trying to make them literate.
How many of you have seen this picture before? All right, this photo is Robert E. Howard, who is hatless, socking Truett Benson in the gut. And we've had this photo for a really long time. And when I say we, I mean, Howard fandom in general, not, it's not some little cabal we over here that has all the photos. Although Patrice Lounet has all the photos. So we've seen this picture. No one ever knew where it was, though. And as you know, with the Fort McKavett situation, I want to go and be right where that spot is. So this picture is one of the ones that I'm like, you can almost see stuff, but where is it? The cover of the photo, the poetry book, where the Howard profile, and he's standing in this field, and there's some fence there, but where is that? There's no way to know. Anyway, same with this. I'm like, how do we ever know? But then, when Glenn Lord died, we got access to all of his stuff. And he had photographs and pages of things that the general Howard fan didn't know about for a long time. But in there was this photo. Same spot, right? See the stuff in the background is the same. Same. This is Clyde Smith over there, and Truett over here. And same stuff in the background. And if you see this line right here, this is an important, yeah, you can see it. This is an important piece of the puzzle to go stand where Robert E. Howard stood. So assuming that this is the same spot, and based on the land behind them, if it's not the same spot, it's very close to it. You can go to Cisco. So here's Cisco in 1927, which is 1 year before. Those photos, by the way, were taken in 1928. I have a note. When you take notes and don't use them, that's a big fail. There's a reason I took notes. And there's a reason I bought cheaters. Maybe I didn't take notes. My bad. At the September 1928, he wrote a letter to Harold Priest saying basically, Truett, Clyde, and I went to Cisco Dam. We went to see the swimming pool. The Texans have, their bodies are so well made, and it's a very interesting little snippet. But they went to the Cisco Dam in 1928, and it's one of the rare times. Oh, and on the back of that photo, it says this one: Truett and Clyde doing a bathing beauty routine at Cisco Dam. So I'm like, all right, now we know where this photo was taken, because it's the same background. So my family and I, off we went to Cisco Dam, and see the line here, same line. If you are curious about going to be in this spot, the post that I have my elbow on is the 12th post, count 12, and you'll be there. Count 12, there's my dad and I.
That's awesome.
And here, if you start from where this big block is, this is number 1. And then count 12, you're going to be down here somewhere. But look for that line at the bottom, and you will be standing in the same spot.
Where you stood.
Where I stood. And more importantly, Robert E. Howard stood. Yeah, there's the It's 12. This is the Lake Cisco Bridge, built in 1927, same year that that city photo I had was made. This is the end of the Lake Cisco portion. Yes?
You said you might be breaking a law if you go there?
Yeah.
Yes, someone went to there this weekend and they said there's a no trespassing sign. There may have been one there when we were there. If there's not a chain, I'm walking, because you can always, you know, it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission, and I didn't see it.
I actually was fascinated by the Cisco town picture. I've seen a lot of 1920s town pictures, and they basically tell everybody with a car, park here at a certain time so we can take a picture.
So it looks like it's a,
that.
yeah,
It looks like a bustling metropolis rather than
right.
a few people.
And there's a lot of cross-plane photos like that too.
Is the bank where the Santa Claus bandits robbed in that
Yes.
picture?
And there's a Hilton Hotel Museum there too.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And, oh, what's his name? I'm getting old. One of Robert E. Howard's friends went to college there. Winfred Brigner. Y'all know who he is, right? More of the bridge. Here's where the swimming pool was, over here on the side. I don't think I have it here. Let me check one. No. There's you can find video online of people swimming. There was a big floating slide, and you know all the girls in their 1940s bathing suits, just you know looking really cute. I'm sure Howard and the boys had a great time at the Cisco Dam that day. That's the end of the Cisco Dam portion. Next, El Paso. This is one of the first things that I remember doing with my dad, because we live in California and we drove to Texas every time we've been to Texas. I have started flying because I don't like to drive all the time. But we drove through El Paso every time practically we came to Texas, and Robert E. Howard had been to El Paso, so of course we're going to stop and look around. One of the things that Robert mentions in his letters is going to the Aztec Bar, which I got lucky with this picture. I'll try to remember to tell you about. He and Truett Benson were traveling around. They were in El Paso drinking beer, they crossed the border into Mexico, and they came back across and listened, watched pictures of a fight, I forget which fight. And then they went to the Aztec Bar to prime themselves before they started driving home. Different era, right? Anyway, I'm like, here we know they were in El Paso and we have the name of an establishment. I should be able to find that. Do y'all know what a city directory is? We don't have them anymore. It's kind of like a phone book.
Is that
But
by the Chamber of Commerce? Is that what that is?
sometimes.
Okay.
We went to the library in El Paso. Texas libraries are the best libraries. I live in California. We have beautiful, large libraries, but they don't have anything in them. Anything I'm interested in, unless you count all that literature. But the Texas libraries, they have, you can have access to all the Texas newspapers, there's court documents, all these city directories, yearbooks, just everything you want is there. So we go to the library, I say I need a city directory from 1932, that's a guess. And they're like, oh yeah, we got a shelf of them over there. So I walk over there and there they are, a shelf of city directories, find Aztec Bar, address, right here. If you see these kind of loopy things behind the tree and this bank building, it's the same as the loopy things here and this bank building. They're the same. If you can't see it, you take my word for it. I can show you later.
What year is that picture from?
This picture, I'm guessing is 46, I don't know.
Okay.
And I'll remind me to tell you about this. The address in the city directory was 100 San Antonio Street, so here it is. Several years ago, that was now Sonny's Accessories and not Aztec Bar. Here's the building, it's on the corner. This is a bank. Is that the end? That's the end. So I posted all this on the now defunct Two Gun Raconteur blog back, I don't know, 2008 or something like that. And the person who now owns the building saw it somehow, probably because I mentioned the Aztec Bar. And they're like, hey, what do you know about the Aztec Bar? I'm like, I don't know anything. I know that Robert E. Howard went there. He's like, oh, that's too bad. And I said, do you have a picture of it? And I have a picture of it. Makes me very happy.
It's an interesting picture since there's an African-American woman in a group of white men.
think it's a
Think,
guy.
or is it a
It's a
guy?
guy.
Oh, it's an apron and a dress, okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on in here, but
He might be the barkeeper or something.
Cook or something. Interesting.
but that's what happens when you put things on the internet. People contact you. Do you know more? If you ever look at my website, and I'm not asking you to do it because
And
you've
your
got to be
website
really
is?
far down the rabbit hole to look at my website. It's called Howard History.
Okay.
But I do a lot of genealogy articles about, Robert E. Howard's great uncle on his cousin's third side. And every once in a while, someone will contact me, hey, I know this. Super cool. But they always want to know about that. And I'm like, if it's not in a straight line to Robert E. Howard somewhere, I don't know anything about it. That is the end of the places you can go that Howard went to portion of the program. Are there any questions? Now we're going to get, really ugly.
No Lincoln, New Mexico in here?
Do you want some Lincoln, New Mexico? I'll take requests.
Albuquerque, that's where I live.
Albuquerque is not on the list of places that Howard went. So I'm going to show you this, and I probably shouldn't because I'm going to get mugged, I think. This is my portable hard drive. And I have 24 years of madness here.
How about Dallas, Texas?
But here, places. So here's the places that Robert E. Howard went to. You asked about Lincoln, New Mexico. I'm going to go to the New Mexico folder because everything else is Texas. And then these are all the places that Howard went to in New Mexico. And here's Lincoln. So Howard went to Lincoln with Truett Benson. I forget what year it was, but they mentioned this structure, the Torreon, a few times. That's been fixed up a few times. There is.
What year did you take that picture, Bob?
Say again?
What year did you take the picture?
2007.
Okay.
I went there with Don Herron, and we recreate the Howard photo. Don is Louise Maez, and I'm Robert E. Howard. Super stylish Robert E. Howard, I might add. Anyway, everything that Howard mentions in his letter, you can still pretty much do if you go to Lincoln. He talks about seeing the bullet holes in the courthouse, and they're all there still under glass now.
The whole town is a historical site.
Yeah, it's a
nothing's
great
gonna
place to
change.
go. My computer will respond. Uh-oh, we might have come to the end of everything.
what
So
was
I'm
the
taking
first-
donations for a new laptop.
Where was the first site you visited?
The
First site you visited?
first,
Site of all the...
I have hearing aids now, so my hearing is crap. The first time we came here, and you mean ever?
Any place, of all these places that you visited.
Well, Cross Plains was the first place.
A given, I guess.
Did he ever visit Dallas, Texas?
Yes, and Fort Worth. He liked to. He saw fights in Fort Worth with his friend Harold Priest. I apologize for my technology.
What's the furthest you ever gone out of the state?
What's the farthest you've gone out of the state?
Me?
Or he did.
Furthest from Cross Plains.
Robert E. Howard went. The farthest was probably Santa Fe, New Mexico, over there. There's a Fort Ildefonse. It's an Indian place or a Native American place. But he also went to Missouri, Exeter, Missouri with his mom, so I'm not quite sure which is farther. And New Orleans is a trek. They took the train there. I guess I have to do something critical here.
On the Santa Fe trip, did he mention a bar there too?
In Santa Fe?
Yeah,
On the, maybe not in Santa Fe, but on the way.
yeah,
Like in Carlsbad or something.
yeah, I seem to remember that.
Very upsetting.
Howard mentioned that he was inspired by some of the ruins in New Mexico when he made Red Nails, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think. Gary knows that better than I do.
Yeah, he mentions like the Lincoln being the death ground, and there's some stuff that you can see in Red Nails. I wrote an article about it a long time ago, but I can't remember the exact correlations now. But yeah, definitely Lincoln, New Mexico helped form Red Nails.
Well, I guess we're gonna end half an hour early.
You jinxed it by saying you were going to.
Say it?
You jinxed it earlier in the computer.
I did. Scott?
In Gary's article, I think you described how the layout of the city in Red Nails was the same as the layout of the.
Yeah, I forget the exact wording. It's it's on the blog. Look up Sprague the Camp Fan blog, and you can see the article there. But yeah, I can't remember exactly. It was written up. We put it in Leo's The Sumerian. That's where it was first published.
I'm all locked
That was
up.
about 20
Yeah,
years
it
ago.
doesn't let you end task,
No.
so the control it, there's not an end task on there?
Well, I already ended
Right
the
click?
photo one, but.
Or right click?
Yeah,
Let's try this.
Is there an actual software, hardware expert in there?
Yeah, it's not letting me end task either, so.
The map you have at the beginning with all the pinpoints, is that accessible on the website?
I don't think it's on the website. I can email it to you. My email's just Rob, R-O-B, @roadrunner.com. If you want that. Okay, what was I gonna do? My original plan was this. Okay, so back to the crazy. One of the folders I have here is contemporaries. So when you run out of things to do that are directly related to Robert E. Howard, you have to either move on to something else or pick someone else. So I probably know more about his relatives than anyone alive does. I've met a lot of his relatives and I know more about their genealogy than they do. I can tell them things about, in this line that I've mentioned, I just know, and it's ridiculous, but I get some good stuff from them sometimes, at least good to me. Who else wants a picture of Robert E. Howard's third aunt on his cousin's side, right? I do. But
Are these people aware that their relative was?
they are now. But no, usually not. The email that I introduce myself to them is, you don't know me, but you're related to a Texas writer. I would like to talk to you about that. And then they're curious. I don't tell them who it is until they respond. And I was going to give you Howard. All right, so here's my Doc Howard folder. And it is one of the bigger folders in my collection because he was a doctor. And when you're a doctor in Texas in the late 1800s, early 1900s, every time you show up somewhere, you have to register. And the way you register is you have to give them a copy of your diploma or some other document that says, I'm really a doctor. And then the courthouse will, in one case, transcribe the whole diploma in Latin into miscellaneous records folders. Or most counties had a book, either medical directory or physician's registry. And the doctor had to sign and present his credentials. It gets stamped and recorded, and then away you go. You can practice in my county or town now. So what I've done, because Doc Howard is kind of complicated, I have this folder called Timeline Docs. Dr. Howard didn't like staying in one place. Can't explain why. That's everyone wants to know why I don't know why. He was born in Frio, Arkansas. This is what Frio, Arkansas looks like. It's a beautiful place. I didn't find but one building. There it is. That's okay. So I went to Frio because, like I said, I'm crazy and I have to go everywhere. This morning on the bus tour, Jack and Rusty and some other people have kind of found where the Howards lived in Burkitt, but the house was demolished last year or 2 years ago or something. But this was new to me, so when we got in Burkitt, I hightailed it over to that spot and got a picture of standing in Burkitt at the house. Anyway, this is the Arkansas census document that says that Dr. Howard was born there and living in Frio in 1880, if I'm even saying it correctly. Frio, as I've said, is a wonderful place. This is Dr. Howard's whole life up until the point that Robert E. Howard was born. He began up here in Arkansas, in Frio Township. The next thing we know about him is his whole family moving down here to Lime Hill County. They're kind of straddling the county line between Hill and Limestone. It's called Mount Calm, small town, and then the other side of the county is Delia, which is Frio. You know what I'm saying? Looks very much like Frio. He practiced farming, maybe, at least that's what his older brother Dave was doing. And at some point he got trained in medicine. There's a lot of theories about how that happened. Well, there's two theories about how that happened. There's L. Sprague de Camp's theory that he went back to Arkansas and was trained under an uncle who was a doctor. And then there's Rob Ream's theory that he stayed right where he was and got trained by his in-laws. You can decide which one you think is more plausible. DeCamp used a registration in a physician's register, a medical register book for an I. Howard, very near where this uncle in Arkansas lived. But research has shown that that I. Howard was like an 80-year-old man at the time of this registration and not Isaac Howard, our guy. Anyway, there's that. Where'd I get to? After he gets his medical license in Delia, he starts traveling around and ends up here. But we'll get there eventually. Let's see what time it is. What do I have for Limestone? Limestone County is where Delia is. One of Howard's grandparents, Dr. Howard's grandparents, died in Arkansas and left a bunch of land to the family. Dr. Howard's mother sold that land and moved to Texas in 1885. Here are this is like references to land documents. This is the stuff I get at courthouse. It's not interesting to anyone but me. And you can see all the books and things you have to dig through. But here's Delia. Like I said, it looks a lot like Frio. There's not much in Delia. It's just a dried up old place now. But that's where Dr. Howard sold his inheritance to his brother, Dave, who was a farmer. And then Dr. Howard got trained somehow, somewhere. And by 1899, he is a practicing physician. We know that because in a directory, you had to tell them what year you started practice, and he told the directory 1899. Of course, he could have been lying, but that's another story. What is this?
Can I ask you did you learn as you go for this, to learn how to do this, or is there some book you picked up somewhere?
Totally learned how.
Okay.
The first courthouse I went to, I didn't know what I was looking for. I'm like, I want records about this guy, Dr. Howard. And they're like, go away. You have to be, I'm like, I'm looking for land records from the 1800s. And they're like, oh, go over there. Yeah, I learned all of it on the fly. This is, I think this is the oldest one we have, Dr. Howard's license, basically. And some of these I did not find, so especially the older ones. They might be from when DeCamp was researching Dark Valley Destiny. He had some people helping him out in Brownwood especially, I forget their names, but they were hitting a lot of courthouses for him, and they found some of these documents. My computer's acting up, okay. Back to that. Anyone in Howard's life you're curious about?
Who was the in-law who trained him, and that you think trained him in medicine?
So Dave married Worthington, and Dr. Howard's brother Dave married, I want to say her last name was Worthington, I think it's Fannie Mae Worthington. Her dad was a doctor, living very nearby. One of Fannie's sisters also married a doctor, lived in Limestone County. So in my head, I'm like, all right, now that we've eliminated this registration in Arkansas that DeCamp found as not being our doctor, we have this guy, Dr. Howard, or Isaac Howard, who doesn't want to do the family farm anymore. He wants to be a doctor. Is he going to sell his interest to his older brother and then go to Arkansas and train under his uncle and then come back to Texas to practice? Or is he gonna, my father-in-law, my brother's father-in-law, or my brother's brother-in-law, who are right here? You know, it makes more sense to me that he trained with those people, because the first place he registered was one county over from where he was living already. So it doesn't make sense to me, and I like things to make sense. But I can't disprove it. He had an uncle up there who absolutely was, I think I have his picture, who absolutely was a doctor, and a prosperous doctor. The Henry family in Arkansas, they were pretty well off. The Howards in Texas, not so much. Let's see if I have a Henry. Nope. Oh, wait, yeah, I do. You see how crazy I am. This is the doctor, James Taylor Henry.
That's the uncle.
The uncle, yes, Dr. Howard's uncle, Dr.
He's the one who trained Robert's father.
Possibly.
I do have two questions.
Yes.
Does these older Howard seems to have been a traveler. Does he ever have a place he considered his favorite, or that he sang the praises of the most? And second question is, could you talk a bit more about where Howard went up in Dallas and Fort Worth? I'm also from the area.
Where his favorite was, I don't have a guess. He might say something in a letter about it, but he would have said the same thing about a different place 3 letters later. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I know he liked to travel at places where they had beer.
Everybody likes that. Yeah.
Not everyone.
Right.
As far as Fort Worth, I would need to open. I don't think I can answer your question. Let me see what I have.
It's in there. I see all those folders.
Fort Worth, second from the bottom.
So no. I'm almost remembering the name of a place he went to see a fight, but it's not coming. So no, I can't help you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
And when he traveled, where would he stay? Did he stay in boarding houses? Were there?
They had things called tourist camps. They're kind of like rest stops with tents. Some of them were nicer than others, though. More like a motel situation. But they called them tourist camps, and he liked to stay on the cheap when he could. There are surviving tourist camps. It's El Paso. Help me out, Jack. Coming from the west, El Paso, and then there's
Las
Fort,
Vegas.
there's Fort something.
Fort Davis?
Stockton.
Fort Stockton.
Never mind, you're off the hook. Fort Stockton and Pecos. They both have tourist camps still that you can go look at least.
I know that Howard, one of the letters is written on like a Fort Worth hotel station area.
Yes.
But we don't know whether he stayed there or not.
Yeah, if you had a date for that, I could pull up a picture of
I
it,
can't
but yeah,
remember the date.
me neither. Yeah, okay. What was I doing? Back to, the good news is there's only 15 minutes left.
I'm enjoying your talk.
Yeah, it's very extemporaneous.
It's okay.
Was Howard close to any of his other relatives?
Close, I don't think so, but he talks about living in Oklahoma in a couple of letters. Western Oklahoma, whatever that means. Does that mean the arm, or does that mean, I don't know. He had relatives that lived in Oklahoma. We don't have any documentation of Howard living in Oklahoma, or his dad being in Oklahoma at that time. But he has family members in Oklahoma. If he was living there, he seems to say that anytime he stayed in a place longer than 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So he says he lived in New Orleans. Well, he was there for a month when his dad was getting some training. So he lived there for a month. But the same thing with Texas, or Oklahoma. So he might have been close to, that would have been his dad's sister, Willie, maybe. And then he also had a bunch of family over in, do you know what county Mart is in?
Mark?
Waco?
Wait, yeah,
Is it Waco County?
well, it's the same county as Wickland.
McClellan.
Well,
Come on, Jack. McClellan County, out east, near Waco. There's a big contingent of Howards there. His Uncle Dave was there, and Dave had 12 children before he died.
I'm sorry.
Well, and then he got hit by a train, so go figure. It's true. I'll show you.
Nothing yet.
Have you been to that train?
Take your word for it.
And there's evidence that Doc Howard, at least, would go and visit that side of the family on occasion. That
Well,
was-
it wasn't like today where they just get in the car and go. I mean, visiting distant relatives was a lot more.
Absolutely,
issues.
especially the early stuff, when they're doing all this moving around, they're moving around in a buggy, horse and buggy, or,
And they don't have paved roads necessarily.
this is me standing where Uncle Dave got killed. This right here, behind the gate, is the old railroad grade.
You look like you're saying, what am I doing here?
My dad wanted me to stand there. So the railroad grade was was in this town called TK, T-E-K-A. And I never know how to pronounce Texas town names. Some on the map, some of them just are the letter T and K, TK. Some of them are T-E-K-A. So anyway, it's TK. So here's the TK cemetery, which is the only thing left of TK. Here's where it is on the map. None of this is very helpful to you. All right, here is where, this is a super old map, that when the Howards moved from Texas, from Arkansas to Texas, they landed right here, Mount Calm, Limestone County, this area here. TK is right here. So the Howard, and one of Dave's sons, I'm scattershotting everything. I'm off in the weeds now. Anyway, that's the line where Dave got
Literally.
hit by a train. Here's a piece of the tracks that they pulled up because they just recently removed the tracks. My dad liked to say that there's probably some Dave DNA on there. He may be right. Anyway, that's TK. After Dr. Howard got his medical license in 1899, the first place I think he registered was at home in Limestone County. But I can't prove it because the Limestone County courthouse burned, and any record of his recording there is gone. The people in charge of the courthouse were very happy to hear about these books called medical registers. They'd never heard of it before, and they didn't have one. So the next place, or the first place, depending on your point of view, was in Fairfield, the county right next to it. And in 1899, he registered his credentials there, but he didn't stay there very long. And my theory, as long as we're doing theories, he had a sister, Willie, living in Oklahoma. Well, Willie had married a Native American, or at least a gentleman who was half Native American, named William Oscar McClone. And William Oscar McClone got in a little bit of trouble for stealing some mules. And he had to go spend some time in Fort Leavenworth. And Willie had 3 small children. So it makes sense to me that Dr. Howard went up to visit Willie and maybe help. So that's the next place we see him registering, is up in Montague County, right on the Red River line. Then there's a medical registration of him in Petersburg, Oklahoma, just on the other side in Oklahoma. And he's there for a little while. But at some point, that was enough of that, and he comes back to Texas. And I've lost my folder there. After the Oklahoma adventure, which here's Petersburg, it looks a lot, oh, this is actually the county seat, so disregard that. This is Waurika. Petersburg was established before 1907. Well, it was a city before 1907, but it wasn't established until 1907. Dr. Howard was there in 1903, 1902. There's a cemetery. That's not him. Here's where Petersburg is. And that's it. There's nothing in Petersburg. It's like,
Literally? Nothing
it's
else?
like Frio.
Oh.
I found this picture online. None of that's there now. Well, there could be a big wheel there somewhere. I didn't find it. But once he comes back to Texas, things start being a lot easier to document. He lands in Palo Pinto in a little town called Christian, which also doesn't exist anymore. Let's see. I used to have a picture of it. There's a street sign up there, Old Christian Road. That's all that's left of Christian.
Where is that in relation to?
Christian is about 10 miles straight up from Grayford,
Okay.
which is where Dark Valley actually is. So those of you who hear Dark Valley, think Grayford. You're never going to find Dark Valley. You're going to find Grayford. You might find Dark Valley Creek. So in 1902, the Polk's Medical Register comes out. And in the Polk's Medical Register, it has Dr. Howard in Petersburg, Indian Territory, and in Grayford, which is in Texas, Palo Pinto County. I could be totally wrong in what I'm looking at. There it is. I am Howard. You see it over here on the side. Grayford, Palo Pinto, population 19. Woo! I'll bet it looked a lot like Frio.
What's the significance of the asterisk?
The asterisk is says that he was verified without, they don't have his diploma on file.
In other words, you're taking his word for it.
He probably didn't have a diploma because he was probably trained.
Okay.
And then Texas didn't actually make you have to have a diploma until, I want to say, 1907. So he's good in 1902, when this is from. He does eventually get a diploma. That's a whole other story. Anyway, so in 1902, he's registered in this book in 2 places. My theory is that the Oklahoma listing is a holdover from when he was there, but he is now in Palo Pinto County. And he starts registering births and deaths, and he lists his residence as Christian, Texas. You see down here. And he does this.
Can I ask you a question? So you find these little breadcrumbs, and that just leads you going through these registers and things like that. And how often do you come up empty-handed?
All the time.
Okay. And
All the
that doesn't
time.
make you lose faith in the whole, I'm going to find more information?
No, it's like drugs, man. That one hit, right? As soon as you get that one, you find that thing, it's like, yes, I found the thing that's going to change everything. And it changes nothing. But it's so exciting to find that one thing that you just keep. I mean, I'm done now. This is enough. It's the rest of my life to just sort this out. But
You'll find something you go back to college.
I figure I'll probably find something. There is, I want to show this again. So everything I did down here, nothing. Nothing. The Dr. Howard and Robert talked about, South Texas. They went down there. Robert Howard wrote some letters from Westlaco. He went across the border into the border town of whatever it's called. Nothing. I can't find anything. And we went to, my dad and I went to 7 different courthouses. Because in one of his letters, Robert E. Howard writes that he lived 50 miles from the coast. So, right, I'm a smart guy. Where's the coast? Here's the coast. Where's 50 miles from the coast?
You got
Where are
one.
all the courthouses? Let's go. Good summer trip. Actually, we did it in December. My bad. It was pleasant.
You got one spot there that looks around Longview.
Around
Longview.
Where's Longview?
East Texas.
Northeast Texas, going towards Louisiana.
Yeah. It's,
Above the
Out of
double
the
L.
S in Dallas.
yeah,
Well,
below the S in Dallas there. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Longview is not on my list, but I'll check.
Well, it could have been Kilgore, could have been
Probably Bagwell.
Marshall.
Marshall.
Yeah, I was thinking Marshall.
Okay.
In Marshall, Texas, Howard had 2 cousins, Maxine and Lesta, and one of them lived in Marshall, Texas for a minute, and I went to the courthouse because I'm insane.
Okay.
When you were talking about down in the valley, was it that the records didn't exist, or you couldn't find anything in the records?
Either or. So I'm going to tell the Wichita Falls story because it's instructive of how this all works. In one of his letters, and this is a site that a lot of people didn't know exist or didn't know the answer to until I found it. I found this one, not my dad. Although he was with me, so I'll give him half of it. Robert E. Howard writes about living in the Wichita Falls country. Well, what's that, right? So we went to Wichita Falls. We went to the county courthouse. The person in charge of the records, and our standard intro was, "Hi, I'm looking for a doctor." You don't want to lead with, "I'm looking for Robert E. Howard," because now you're crazy. But if you're looking for a doctor, that's somehow okay. So I'm looking for a doctor who was practicing in the area in 1912, 1913. Oh, well, you need this book in that place, and and away we go. This lady, "Hi, I'm looking for," we already knew by this time what it was, a medical register or a physician's registry, something that the doctor registered in. "Oh, we got rid of that stuff a long time ago." I'm like, "Ooh, what do you mean you got rid of it?" "Well, it went over to this place, and then we recycled all the pages." I'm like, "So there's no," and she's like, no one needs that anymore. And she's like, "Look at all the space we have." And I was horrified. They still had land records, so I looked through that. No Howard, no Dr. Howard anyway. But there are 3 other counties that are considered Wichita Falls country, or at least 2. And one of them that L. Sprague de Camp said he went to and could find nothing. My dad and I went to Clay County. I forget the name of the county seat. We walked in and said, "We're looking for a doctor, and do you have a physician's registry?" And this is the only county this ever happened in. "Oh yeah, I've got it right here."
Or was it the second person that they asking for?
Maybe. It was amazing to us because no one ever, they don't even know they have this book or where it is. Everyone's like, "It's in the county clerk's office." And I'm like, "No, it's usually in the district clerk's office." And we always have to go to the county clerk first, and then we go to the district clerk, and there it is. And sometimes there's nothing there. But I can show you. The book was there. It had Dr. Howard's registration in it. He registered in it. He was living in a town called Byers, right up on the river with Oklahoma. He registered in December 1912, and that was Wichita Falls country. That's where the Howards were. And that's also the big window where he might have lived in Oklahoma. They left the Palo Pinto region The last document I have for the Palo Pinto region is like October of 1912. Then there's nothing until this registration in Byers in December 1912. And then there's nothing until he registers clear over in East Texas in 1913, April, I think. So there's a good 8 months, and you know, in the middle of that 8 months, they're living in a border town. I'm like, this makes good sense to me that that might be when they lived in Oklahoma, since Robert E. Howard is saying he lived in Oklahoma, and there's no evidence otherwise to say that he did. That to me is the good window. And it's almost 12:30, so I'm gonna say I'm done, and my throat's dying. Does anyone have any questions?
Why haven't you been to Mexico?
I have been to Mexico, just
Okay.
not those border towns.
Okay.
First, I couldn't get my dad to go there when we were doing all our driving around. And now it would require me going back to El Paso.
Okay.
And I really don't want to go down, it's so hot, I don't like hot. Yes?
Was there a town called Dark Valley or just the creek?
No, so what Dark Valley is a creek. And when we talk about Dark Valley, what we're really talking about is Grayford. So Grayford is the big town. That's where the post office is. And where the Howards lived was I'm gonna dispute that they built a house on Dark Valley Creek, as somebody told DeCamp. But they lived in Dark Valley, which is where the creek runs. And Robert E. Howard has mentioned going back there a time or two. But there's not like a town. If you want to talk about the town is Grayford. And Dark Valley is just a creek that runs nearby. Does that answer?
Well, how big is Grayford? I'm assuming very small.
When Dr. Howard registered there in 1902, the population was 19. It's teeny tiny. The last time I was there, 7 years ago, it's half the size of Cross Plains. Small. Yeah.
Is there any evidence of him doing any land buying or land speculation?
Him who?
Either the doctor?
Dr. Howard, yes.
Yeah.
So when he moves into the Palo Pinto region, it's right about the time they're starting to build this railroad. And I forget the name of the railroad. I have it in here somewhere, but my machine is acting funny. And he buys some land in a town called Roehm. At least that's how I pronounce it, O-R-A-N. And Roehm is near Grayford. So he's registering in Christian first. And then he meets and marries Robert E. Howard's mother, Esther, probably in Mineral Wells, but we don't know. Mineral Wells is the big town near Christian. I doubt they met in Grayford. After they're married, Dr. Howard continues to register and sign his residence as Christian. So that I'm imagining their first married home was in Christian. They moved from Christian to Roehm, and they bought some land there, and then they sell some land, and he bought some land and held on to it, because there's supposed to be a train. So all of this moving around, and then he moves to a town called Witt, and then to Peaster. It's just all in the same region. Like I said at the beginning, you can travel to all these places in an hour and a half in a car. It would have been different back in the day. But he does buy some land and sell some land here and there. He bought some land in Burkett, but he sold it like 6 months later for a nice little profit. But then he went off to New Orleans, and when he came back, they bought the plot in Crossbow. So, and there might be more. There's some evidence that he was into like oil, mineral rights with some locals. I don't have all of that. Rusty Burke has all that.
Okay.
And Rusty's not here. Yeah.
What took them to New Orleans? How long were they there?
They were there for like 3 weeks to a month, and it was Dr. Howard doing some classes. Dr. Howard went there at least 3 times, and at least once he took the family with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Woo! I'll be here all week.